Hi, this is Cathy Skipper from Aromanosis, and I've just popped on because I wanted to talk a little bit about our up-and-coming class, The Wounded Healer for Psychedelic Therapists. So you might well ask, what is a wounded healer? And obviously we'll go into depth in this in the class, but briefly, the way I understand a wounded healer is someone who came into this world usually carrying a deep wound. And in my understanding, and in most of the people I work with, that wound usually has some form of ancestral resonance. So it's a wound that has been passed on. The person's come in with this deep wound that has become evident in their life and what's happened in their life. And then at some point, just like Chiron, the wounded healer, the archetype of the wounded healer, the centaur, just like his wound became unbelievably painful, so does a wound for the person who's carrying the archetype of the wounded healer. And this pain and discomfort eventually forces them into a healing journey. And this healing journey involves going into the underworld, going deep into the unconscious, because that's where this wound is sort of seeping its pain and it's sort of like an open wound seeps blood. Well, the unconscious is seeping these painful patterns and stories that haven't been integrated into the person's life. So we have to dive into the unconscious, deep into the underworld, to be able to understand our wound, to be able to heal it, to be able to feel it, to be able to navigate it, to be able to finally integrate it. And that's a journey. And for most people, it's a journey that takes quite a long time. My journey took at least, well, it took all my life, but consciously, when I realized I had to commit to the underworld, it took about 6 or 7 years of really continuously diving down, like a diver, diving down into a wreck. You know, the wreck is what was there for maybe hundreds of years, and pulling stuff up and understanding. Well, the wreck is something that often happened in our ancestral stories, and when we dive down, we piece it together and see how these patterns have played out in our own life. And then finally, after this long journey, there is a resurgence, and we don't really often see it coming. It happens in its own time. The unconscious has its own timing, but there'll be a point in which the wound, although all our wounds are continuously giving, it's the gift that keeps on giving, there will be a time of integration where it's no longer controlling us, where we don't feel this pull into the underworld anymore, because we have peeled away the layers that have been keeping us from ourselves. We have pieced together the stories. We have felt the feelings. And it's at this point where we start to realize that we've come through the wound, and what we get from that is actually the wound then becomes our gift. We see the world, we understand the world, we understand others who resonate on a similar level with similar wounds, because we have been through our own wound. So the gift is being able to hold space for others, to be able to have integrated the gift, so it's no longer the wound, so it's no longer controlling us. We know who we are. We know what our unconscious holds in terms of the wound. We have faced our own shadow. And this enables us, as I said, to hold space for others and guide others through their own healing journeys. We can hold space in a way that is large because we've been there ourselves. And it's that holding space and beholding our clients that really enables them to recognize their own inner healer and start this deep dive themselves. The problem is when practitioners or professionals of the healing arts don't look at their own wound. They just sit there as a practitioner, and that is it. I am the practitioner, I am the healer, I am the doctor, and that is it. And you are the client, you're the patient, you are the ill one, you're the one with the problem. That is a very static situation that is not healing for anyone, because when I sit in the chair as a practitioner, always need to be aware of my own wounding and what it took me to come to a place where my wounding wasn't controlling my life anymore. And in doing so, when I'm faced with a client, I am able to see yes, the client has come for me to hold space, for me to guide them into their own place of healing, but I also am very aware that they have their own inner healer, and that is where we're trying to get them. That is what I'm holding space for. That is where I'm guiding the person to. So that's really important. If I don't do that, then that person will be unaware of their own inner healer. And if they come to, the psychiatrists who see the same client for 20 years, that is a static psychiatrist patient. The patient is a lifelong patient. And that's not how it should be, especially today, where things are moving quickly and where we really need to transform ourselves quickly. So why is all this all the more important for psychedelic therapy? Well, the way I see it is that in psychedelic therapy, we are using a medicine, plant or otherwise, to bring a person into a sort of advanced or heightened sense of the unconscious. So in our everyday life, we can filter off the unconscious. We go on our screens, we do this, if something comes up, we eat something, drink something. We spend our time avoiding the unconscious. With psychedelics, really, for me, the aim is that that filter or that doorway between conscious and unconscious is lifted. And it's in this unconscious realm that healing can happen, and people can see things in a way they didn't see before. So it's extremely important that the practitioner is able to navigate their own unconscious, has dived deeply into their own unconscious, has a language for their own unconscious. The unconscious doesn't speak the same language as the conscious mind. It doesn't speak a scientific language, an intellectual language. It speaks in dreams, in images, in symbols, in art, in nature. So to have built their own language of symbolism and inner images and to navigate that part of themselves is absolutely important for the practitioner. You wouldn't want to go to, let's say, Machu Picchu to visit it with a guide who'd never been there before. You want a guide who probably grew up around there, and their ancestors grew up around there, and they have it in the cells of their body. They know it. And that's the same for psychedelic therapy. You want a guide, you want someone holding space who has navigated their unconscious to the deep, darkest points of themselves. So that's why it's really, really important in psychedelic work. So the invitation is to turn up as whole as possible, with as much as ourselves present as possible, so that then mirrors and holds space for the client to do the same. So, all that to say, our classes are experiential, they're interactive. We aim to bring a healthy balance between moments of journeying using essential oils into the parts of ourselves that we spend less time in our conscious lives, and to marry that with a conscious understanding of our individual journeys, so that we can heal ourselves and be honest and effective practitioners for others when they journey. So if you're interested, we'll leave a link below. These classes are deep, they're transformative. We're not here just to talk, we're here to transform. We feel that transformation is extremely important in the world today, which is probably why psychedelic therapy is becoming so popular. And this is an important class, so come on over. Lots of love.